The 2024-25 Women's Super League is on the horizon. In preparation, we're previewing every single team and discussing how they'll shape up over the next campaign. We take a look at the transfer business conducted by the teams so far and offer suggestions of who else they should move for before the season gets underway. Today we preview Chelsea. It's a period of change for our reigning champions, who will begin the season without Emma Hayes at the helm for the first time since 2011. We discuss whether Sonia Bonpastor can build on Hayes' legacy. We also analyse the new signings and what they'll add to this star-studded Chelsea squad. This is our 2024-25 season preview for Chelsea. Alright, let's get into it then. The preview for last year's champions Chelsea. It's been an interesting one today because obviously Chelsea have moved on now from Emma Hayes after going back to back in the WSL. So it's going to be an interesting change here of eras as Sonia Bonpastor comes in. But let's recap last season. Very good for Chelsea.
Yeah, very much so. I think Chelsea proved quite a bit last season. Obviously, the title race going down to goal difference on the final day was, exhilarating. It was such an exciting season. I think Chelsea just showed their quality, that they still came out on top, even when it was so tight. The final game of the season kind of proved everything to me, why Chelsea deserved to be champions. Putting 6 past Man United while Man City was struggling against Aston Villa. I think that summed up the title race so well, in terms of City were there right till the end and they put up a brilliant fight. But Chelsea were just better across the course of the season. I think if you look at the squads, Chelsea just had that quality last season. But as you say, new beginning now under a new manager, lost a lot of the old guard, brought in quite a few as well. It's going to be a very interesting season for Chelsea.
It will be. Just reflecting on last season, do you think it was a success in all competitions? Obviously, the WSL winning the title. However, at one point we were talking about Chelsea going for the quadruple and they came away with just the title. In that regard, I don't think you could ever say a season with a trophy is not a good one. But would it be, from what the target and the ideas at the start of the season would have been, is that a successful campaign?
I don't think so, to be honest. I think FA Cup was a massive surprise. Yes, the Man United game was everything and very controversial.
But we still conceded those 2 goals early on.
Yeah, exactly. So Chelsea shouldn't have lost the FA Cup semi-final. Conti Cup final was the first time we really saw Emma Hayes crack. And the UWCL, I don't think Chelsea could have much more about that. Yes, they'd have wanted to win it, but they won the first leg away in Barcelona. Then Elena Dimitrescu did her best job. But again, Chelsea, they still lost that game. I think it was disappointing to only come away with 1 trophy in Hayes' final season.
Yeah, definitely so. Let's talk about who's coming in then. Sonia Bonpastor, a manager with a lot of pedigree behind her, a manager who has won numerous UWCL titles, a manager who has won both, UWCL titles as a player and a manager, who's won Division 1 Feminine titles as a player and a manager. So she comes in with a lot of pedigree behind her. Is this what Chelsea need to finally crack the Champions League? And with obviously Lyon losing Bonpastor and Giraldez leaving Barcelona, is this Chelsea's time to strike?
Potentially so. Sonia Bonpastor, she is that X factor that she can bring to Chelsea to win the UWCL. Yes, Lyon are a very good side, but Bonpastor is also a phenomenal manager. There's a reason she's won so many titles. And this is why this preview is a little bit weird, because for me, it's going to be interesting to see how Chelsea's season comes out. Will they be as strong domestically as they have been? And will they win the UWCL? I think we could see a positive, strong UWCL campaign, but which could lead to a drop-off in the league. So it'll be very interesting to see how this season's going to play out. What will Chelsea prioritise? Will they try and put an egg in every basket and see what happens? I'm intrigued to see how this season's going to go for Chelsea.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at... Well, let's start, by having a look at what Chelsea have been doing in the transfer window so far. So we've got the incomings and the outgoings. Now, I want to caveat this because I made this graphic. I looked at it for a while and went, bloody hell, a lot has happened this summer. However, and while there are a lot more outgoings than incomings, I think that's very easily explainable. Because you've got 7 loan moves in there for young players who weren't part of the squad anyway. And then I think the noticeable change is that the squad needed streamlining anyway.
Yeah.
Hayes had a lot of players there. She clearly liked having a big squad, a bloated squad.
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen Bob Pastor come in and do is go, is this player good enough? Yes or no? And then rather than loaning them out or trying to give them another season, if they're like 24, 25, she's moved them on.
Yeah.
And I think that's understandable because we did have a lot of players there. So let's start by looking through all the outgoings. Now, first up, Ann-Katrin Berger. I know this happened back in February, but this counts as a summer window because it was past that January deadline. So it's a bit of a weird one, but obviously Berger leaving. Not a big loss. Chelsea have already got Musovic and Hannah Hampton in that role, so they're all right. Mara Mjelde has left to join Arna Bjornar. Beautiful moment as she left, but obviously, and a fantastic servant for the club. But I don't think it's a big loss anymore. I think she, testament to what she's done, but not a huge loss for Chelsea right now.
Yeah, and it's good for Mjelde. She's gone back to the side where it's all started for her, so that's quite a nice fairy tale ending as well.
Yeah, up next, Fran Kirby joining Brighton. I think this is a great signing for Brighton, as we spoke about yesterday. Go and check that preview out if you haven't already. Watch all of this one first, of course, though. Fran Kirby, I think a player who has probably been the best player for Emma Hayes.
Yeah,
probably
definitely
the best Chelsea player of the last decade. So, and someone who I think a lot of Chelsea fans admire, understandably so, an absolute icon of this Chelsea team. Someone who personifies exactly what Emma Hayes wants in a player. I love Fran Kirby. We will always sing Super Fran over at Chelsea games. So, yeah, absolutely love her. And, yeah, I hope she does well at Brighton next season. But ultimately, she didn't play a whole lot last season. She had a few injury concerns over the last few years. It's not a massive loss for Chelsea.
Exactly. A club legend, but realistically, I don't think Fran Kirby's got the quality to perform at the elite level anymore. So it's good to see her still in the WSL. I definitely think she can cut it in the WSL. But, we're talking about winning trophies here. I think, and it's understandable. It happens as you grow, as you age as a footballer. But still a very, very good footballer. Maybe not the level that Chelsea and Sonia Bonpastor was looking for.
No, and while obviously I say that, but it's very much, that's the on the pitch we're talking about. Off the pitch, I do think Mjelde, Kirby, Berger, that impact will be felt. I think we'll probably be okay because we've got Cuthbert staying, we've got Bright staying, and they're both big leaders. I think Bronze will bring in a lot of leadership, so I don't think it's necessarily a huge issue in that regard. Sam Kerr as well, of course, still at the club. So I don't think that's a huge issue, but there is going to be a noticeable difference because they were big voices in the dressing room, and even if Fran Kirby isn't the biggest leader, she led by example. Yeah. And actually, having players like that are really important to have role models for those younger players coming through and having these real model professionals like Fran Kirby. So I do think in that regard, it's a big loss. But obviously on the pitch, I don't think Kirby is at the level of winning a Champions League anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a shame because I'd love to see Fran Kirby with the Champions League trophy in her hands. That is unfortunately just not going to happen until she becomes manager. But who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, one day, hopefully. But yeah, I don't think it's a huge loss. Up next, we've got Alsu Abdelina joining Lokomotiv Moscow. Someone who didn't, obviously, I think she spent last season out on loan. Was she injured? We didn't see her around last season. I know she played quite a bit a couple of years ago, but she's not really been involved in the first team this season, and I don't think it's a massive loss.
No.
Another midfielder that, Emma Hayes just seems to have all these midfielders stored up, and it's been Bonpastor's job to just cull through them. Speaking of which, Menny Leopold's joining Real Madrid. This was a big loss, I think, and I know we've seen a couple of players come in to replace her, but I think we are underestimating how big a loss this will be. Leopold's a top player. Yeah,
I think this was the first one where I kind of sat there and went, that's an interesting one. All the other Chelsea outgoings, or most Chelsea outgoings, make sense. They're pretty straightforward. This is a strange one for me. Leopold, she'll do very well playing in Real Madrid. She'll still be in the UWSL probably, and she'll go over there and see what she can do, and she'll play well. She's a very, very good footballer. Was a bit of a weird one from Chelsea, but as you say, they've bought in replacements. They should be able to cover it.
Yeah, then there's Nikki Everard, who joined last summer from Brighton. Ultimately, we don't really need 4 goalkeepers. No. We've seen 2 leave. We've seen Katie Cox step up from the academy, so I don't think it's going to be a huge loss. She's going to go get some regular first team minutes at PSV Eindhoven. Not a big loss. Just Carter going to Gotham. This was always going to happen once Berger had gone out there. And I know that there was a bit of animosity between Carter and Hayes after the sale of Berger. I think there seemed to be a bit of animosity there. Ultimately, I think Carter was always a good player for Chelsea on her day. But there were too many times last season where she wasn't really on it. And I think that did impact them at times. So a brilliant player and someone who's always given her all for the club, but ultimately I think we've got better.
Yeah, I think definitely same bracket as Fran Kirby. I think in terms of a brilliant servant, as clearly gives a lot for Chelsea, but realistically isn't at that elite level anymore. We've seen it for Chelsea, we've seen it for England. Carter had a tough year last year, and I think it makes sense. She's gone out to the States, joining Berger, and she'll play well out there. So good for her, and for Chelsea it made sense to bring an upgrade in.
Yeah, definitely. Katarina Zvitkova has joined Sparta Prague. Again, it's not one that we're really going to obsess over.
Yeah.
It's a young midfield, or relatively young midfielder. I don't think she's even young anymore. We just view her as one because that's the sort of role she's had in the squad, but she's moved on. Now, Helena Kankovic, this one was for me the most surprising one. But I guess when you look at the midfielders Chelsea brought in this summer and the midfielders that are already there and who's coming through the academy, I guess I don't really see where Kankovic's position is because she's not going to start this season over Nusken and Cuthbert and, well, probably Ingle. I think Ingle will probably leave at the end of the season, but she's not going to start this season. And then after that, we've got players like Lexi Potter coming through.
Yeah.
So I don't really see where that pathway is for Kankovic. So I see why she's gone to Brighton. Again, another one I think will do really well there. I think Brighton are building a good project. If only they hadn't lost all of their other good players, they might have done. They might be all right. But yeah, definitely a good signing for Brighton. Then we've got the Loan Army, and this is just Chelsea loaning out a lot of young players for a lot of experience. Ashanti Akpan has gone to Birmingham. Greta Humphreys has joined Bristol City. Georgia Fox and Lexi Potter have both gone to Crystal Palace. That's WSL loans.
Yeah.
That's very good. A lot of that's experience at the highest level, which is exactly what we want. Amy Claypole is going to Linköping's Luana Ribadera, who we can't really talk about without talking about her joining the club. Out back on loan to Paris FC. So we'll talk about that in just a second. The only other one, Cherish Brown to London City Lionesses. Very exciting project they've got going on over there. Let's talk about Luana Ribadera then. Interesting signing, play striker for Paris FC. Do you think it's a good deal?
Yeah, very good player, and I think the loan return shows that it's definitely one for the future. Chelsea, this is forward thinking, this is future planning as well. I think you've only got a couple years left of Kerr. Maya Ramirez is a very good player, and so is Fischel. But realistically, I look at Ribadera and I think if she can maximise her potential, she is on the level of a Fischel and a Ramirez, and then suddenly that's a tough conversation to have. But definitely one for the future. Chelsea, just future planning.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued because I know she's only 19, so it's not like she'll be demanding starting minutes even next season. But when you consider the number of strikers Chelsea have right now, it is very bloated in that position.
Yeah.
And we've seen Beaver Jones use a striker as well during this summer, which does open up the question there of where she's going to play this season. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's going to spend this season on loan, Luana Ribadera, and maybe in a year's time there'll be a lot more clarity if we were to sell Sam Kerr to the NWSL, for example, for a huge fee. Something like that might happen, but I hope not. Love Sam Kerr, and I panicked when she almost left the club this summer. That announcement was not okay. Not happy with that, but yeah, brilliant player. But yeah, Luana Ribadera looks good. I'll be interested to see how they integrate her into the Chelsea team. Let's go through the other incomings then. First up, Julia Bartel joined on a free transfer from FC Barcelona. It's never a bad thing, is it? Signing a player from Barcelona. I think this is going to be an interesting one. She's only 20 years old, still playing in the Spain youth teams, hasn't played a whole lot of senior football yet. This for me is one for the future. Potentially, I think we'll see her get some rotation minutes this season. And actually, I think it'll be a Beaver Jones situation like it was last year, where Beaver Jones played a couple of minutes, like off the bench at end of games, and she was so good, she forced herself into the squad.
Yeah.
I think Julia Bartel will be very much the same. If she comes on and looks completely at ease in midfield, starts pinging balls in behind and looking incredible, I think she'll start getting those minutes. So that'll be one that's judged throughout the year. Obviously, I think if she isn't really ready for the first team yet, then we will see her play in the B squad. So it's not a massive issue. She's still young enough to be able to play in like the EU21s and stuff like that. So not a huge problem there. And I think there is a large amount of potential there. That's the long-term Cuthbert replacement we hope, or at least we'll be able to play one of the two spots in that pivot. Then we've got Sandy Baltimore joining from PSG, also a free transfer, I believe. Really good signing this. I think, but obviously Baltimore has spent a long time out injured, I think, so hasn't played a whole lot, but she did play the Olympics and looked really exciting during that. Oh no, I'm getting mixed up with the other PSG signing. Baltimore's not been injured, but she's very good. Plays on the left wing, similar sort of player to Guro Wrighton, and that's going to be really interesting to see that competition for places there. I think it's the one spot in that Chelsea attack where there isn't any competition yet. That's really interesting to see. I know Lauren James can play that role, but I think James is an attack midfielder, and I think we learned that last season. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how Baltimore fits.
Yeah, it makes sense for Chelsea. It's a player a very good player on a free transfer. It's a player that Bonpastor knows from playing up against her numerous times over in France. And excuse me. And as you say, Guro Reiten hasn't had a great 2 years now. Maybe adding a bit of competition will help to boost her numbers, but competition's always healthy in a football club. Having two world-class wingers is on that left-hand side is a very dangerous prospect.
Yeah, and then another defensive midfielder, Oriane Jean-Francois. So this is why I don't worry too much about players like Kankovic and Abdelina leaving. I think this is a really good signing. Jean-Francois, she's been out injured for a extended period of time, and I think she's still out injured for the first few months of this season. So I wouldn't expect to see her in a Chelsea kit until the start of the new year, would be my rough sort of estimate, based on my years of medical degrees and knowledge. But yeah, that's a complete stab in the dark. I'll be intrigued to see how good she is when she comes back. Again, we've not seen her play much in a while, so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how good she is when she comes back. But a player, again, that Bob has to be very, very aware of, considering she was in the French league. So yeah, I can understand that transfer. Then we've got Lucy Bronze. This one has divided opinion this summer. Obviously a player who's formerly played for Manchester City for... who was it in the other time? Oh, Liverpool, of course.
Yeah.
Got mixed up. Couldn't think that. Sunderland, Everton. She's played for everyone. She crosses all the divides. She doesn't care about rivalry. She'll play for everyone. But what a brilliant player Lucy Bronze is. Her preferred position is, of course, right back. She's very good at it. We couldn't list all her accolades on this list because it simply wouldn't fit. So we've picked up the highlights, which is the 5 UWCL titles, the 3 WSL titles, the 3 Division 1 feminine titles, the 2 Liga F titles, and of course the 2022 Women's Euros. But we could have included so many more in there because she has had such a long and illustrious career. At 32, this one does surprise me somewhat though, because I think that Perisset is good enough to play that position, and I think now obviously it opens up the question marks as to where Ashley Lawrence is going to play this season. So I can see why some people disagree with it. Where do you stand on it? I think I'll let you talk. What do you think?
I think it's a tough one because, yes, she is in the last few years of her career now. I still do think she's got a good few years left in her, and I think if you have an opportunity to sign one of the most decorated players in women's football, you have to take it. I think she's a brilliant, brilliant player, and if she can perform to the highest level in what is a very, very strong Chelsea team, she could be a brilliant, brilliant signing. So for me, I think Bronze is a very, very good bit of business. I think she's a phenomenal fullback, and on her day, she is the best right back in the world. So, you know, it makes sense. When you've got the opportunity to sign a player like that, you have to take it.
Yeah, definitely. And then just out today, on the day of recording, Melis Mpome, a young centre-half joining from Montpellier. This looks like a good signing. 21 years old, right-footed centre-half. It looks like some sort of, we've spoken this summer already about how Chelsea don't have a whole load of centre-halves.
Yeah.
With Nguyen out injured, with us not really knowing what Brooke Aspin's doing this season because she wasn't included in the pre-season squad. So it's intriguing to see what's going to happen there. I think this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's the one position that, that we've said all summer that Chelsea need to look. They need to bring in a player just to help with that rotation, just to help with squad depth. That's exactly what they've gone and done. And for me, it feels like it completes. There might be more signings, but at this point in time, it feels like it completes a very, very good window. Yeah, definitely. And while I forgot that we've made this graphic, so we're going to talk about that now. But Sandy Baltimore, looking at her FBref profile, very, very exciting player. Averaged 6.43 progressive passes per 90 last season. That ranked in the 95th percentile across positional peers in the top 9 women's competitions. So that's really good to see. Yeah. She's very good at progressing that ball forward. Similar with shot creating actions, 4.99 per 90, 89th percentile, 86th percentile for successful take-ons. They're the sort of things you want to see from wingers. Being able to take players on, creating shots from her actions. That's what you want to see. And I do think that at times, Guro Reiten's a little bit too passive when she's got the ball. Baltimore will bring a lot more dynamism, a lot more explosiveness. We saw that at the Olympics, and sometimes that doesn't really work. Yeah. And I do think both players, because you lose a bit of control in your attacking areas, and so I do think both players have their strengths and their weaknesses, and I think that's quite useful to have two players who aren't the same, who both are the same position. It gives you options, different tactical options in different games. So yeah, I think they're both really good players, but I'm excited to see Sandy Baltimore. Yeah, we saw a bit of her in pre-season and she looked good.
So yeah, I mean,
Scored against Arsenal.
very true. That is the minimum, really. If you score against Arsenal, you can do whatever you want in the rest of the season. Just score against Arsenal, and we will love you. Let's have a look then at how this Chelsea squad looks on paper. Then a 4-2-3-1. That's how we expect this to look.
Yep.
It's how Emma Hayes played the Chelsea setup. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 strikers is something that's explored this season. Maybe a 4-3-1-2 type shape that we saw her trial at Lyon. But then you have got a lot of wingers to factor into this formation. Now, obviously, like Canarai can play attack midfield, Hermano can, but Jones can play up front, but like Wrighton and Baltimore wouldn't really work in a very central system. So I do think we'll see wingers stay at least for this season. Maybe a 4-4-2 type shape could be something that we see. I think it'll look like that out of possession anyway, with the attacking midfielder joining that press. So it's going to be interesting to see what she does. Let's start in goal. We've got Musovic, Hampton and Cox. The big debate at the moment is who will start in that role. Do you think we'll continue to see the 2 rotate? Will one be a cup keeper and one be the league keeper? Or will one claim that number 1 spot? What do you think will happen?
It's interesting. I think it's hard to call. I can't separate the 2 goalkeepers. I think either or works. If Bonpastor, like Hayes, is happy to have a rotation between Hampton for domestic and Musovic for continental games, then that works. If Bonpastor comes in and goes, right, I want a sound number 1 that will play every game and that we might rotate every now and again, that also works as well. For me, I think they're both great goalkeepers. I think Hampton is potentially slightly better when you consider an all-round goalkeeper.
Definitely the ball at her feet.
Yeah, definitely. But Musovic's shot-stopping abilities can single-handedly win you games. So it's very, very hard to call. I think whoever starts is going to do a good job.
Yeah, if it was me making the call, I would have Hannah Hampton in goal for all WSL fixtures this season until maybe, if we're getting deep in the Champions League, then maybe you swap that around. But I'd have Hampton in goal. Even still, to be fair, I think I'd have Hampton in goal for the WSL, Musovic in goal for all the cup competitions and the Champions League.
Yeah.
Because I think in the Champions League, where we are just a little bit more defensive, having a goalkeeper that can save a lot of shots is very crucial.
Yeah.
And actually Hampton in the league, where we will be a little bit more open, a little bit more aggressive in our system, I think is better. And especially in cup competitions where you can't afford to concede or drop points or anything because you are out then. I think having a goalkeeper who will just save your bacon if there is a shot at goal, I think that's more important than having a goalkeeper who's really good at playing out from the back. So I think that will probably be how we see it. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them was to claim that number 1 shot and play every game.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just see what happens.
Man's preference.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if there was a bit of disgruntlement between one of them, if the other one becomes the number 1, and I wouldn't be shocked if we saw one of them leave at the end of the season, because I don't think that either of them will be happy playing this weird rotation setup. I know Musovic has been doing it for years with Berger, but she'd have been thinking, well, once Berger leaves, I'm the starting number 1 here, and then suddenly Hannah Hampton appears and seems to steal that from her. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of them looked at a move away. There's a lot of clubs out there without a goalkeeper. In fact, I was surprised anyway that United didn't look at Musovic.
Yeah.
So I think that would have been a goalkeeper they could have, enticed over with the promise of the number 1 jersey at United. So it's interesting. Let's look at the defence. Right back, Bronze, Perisset, Lawrence. That is incredible depth.
Yeah.
Now, I think we'll see Lawrence play some different positions this season. At left back, there's only Charles and a younger player in Alejandra Bernabé. Now, Bernabé, I think, will probably stay and compete for a spot on the team this season. But Lawrence being able to play both fullbacks is handy. She can also play right wing. So there's a lot of options there with Ashley Lawrence. At centre-half, it's Bright, Buchanan and Pome, I think will be the players that play right centre-half. At left centre-half, Bjorn, Nguyen, Aspen. Obviously, being able to play centre-half, you can play left or right. I think we'll probably see Bright and Bjorn the most this season.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Buchanan, though, become that starting option for Sonia Bonpastor. I think I love Millie Bright, but it was noticeable last season that she's not the same player she was before her injury.
Yeah.
And I think Buchanan started to come to her own more last season. So I wouldn't be surprised, and this is controversial, to see Millie Bright start to be more of a still regular starter, but not as important, not that integral part of the Chelsea backline.
I think the main thing is that Bjorn has to start. So I've forgotten the name of the new centre half. She's been here for 2 hours.
Mpome.
Yeah, I think because what we saw last year was due to injuries, the majority of the season was a Carter Buchanan back 2. There's no pace in that back line. No offence to either of them. There's no pace. They're both brilliant physical centre-halves. But as soon as the ball went over the top, whoever it was, whatever striker it was, they're through on goal. So I think it's very important that you balance pace and physicality. So you either go Bright and Bjorn or you go Buchanan and Bjorn.
Is that balanced out somewhat, though, in that as as long as Lucy Bronze doesn't just run off.
That's the problem.
She's really quick.
Her and Charles are going to be in the attacking third.
Well, that does open up the questions of what they're going to do tactically this season, whether they will... I mean, we saw Arsenal manage it quite well against Rangers, where if one fullback went forwards, the other would sit into the back three, and if the other one went forwards and the other one sits in, we could see something like that. I'll be intrigued to see. I think that Charles is an incredible attacking left-back, and actually possibly better attacking than Lucy Bronze, which is debatable.
Ooh.
They're both very good, but Bronze is 32 now, and we've got to remember that.
But she's
And
rapid.
the other thing I would say as well is that in Canaride, I think you've got a right wing who's better at holding the width than you have in someone like Baltimore or Wrighton, who both like to cut inside, or someone like Lauren James, who practically plays as a second striker attack midfielder type role. So having a left back who overlaps quite aggressively is more useful on that left hand side, I would say. But I guess we'll see. Defensive midfields, the two defensive midfielders, I've split them across both the roles, but either could play either role, really. I think we'll tend to see Cuthbert and Nusken start most this season, which is interesting because I think Nusken is better further forwards. Now, obviously, if we see Vika captain come in and play as well as she has in pre-season, I see no issue with playing captain in there and getting Nusken further forward. Nusken further forward is always better because, as we know, Shoka Nusken scores goals. Get her just up front, maybe.
Ballon d'Or nominee for a reason.
Obviously.
Nusken had a brilliant season last season for club and country. For me, out of the 6 midfielders, Nusken's the nailed-on starter in the big games, in the majority of the games.
Don't disrespect Erin Cuthbert like that. You dare disrespect Erin Cuthbert like that.
Yeah, but I just think Chelsea have got options now. I mean, I guess obviously we're not going to see Jean-Francois for a bit, which is we're going to see her very slowly introduced. But I mean, Cuthbert is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think once if Jean-Francois comes in, I still don't think she gets over Cuthbert for the big matches, but I guess we'll see. Yeah. I think I've also got Sophie England there as well. I think this will be her last season with Chelsea. Yeah. Her contract expires at the end of the season. Probably. I think she's signed another extension till 2025. I imagine that will be this will be her last season. Again, another one like Kirby and others who have been so integral under Emma Hayes, but time passes, and I think time has come now for Ingle. It's nice that she's got one more season. I think having that leader in the dressing room for one more year is going to be really useful, especially with some young defensive midfielders like Bartel and Jean-Francois. Yeah. If she can take those under her wing and really nurture them, that could be really helpful. Yeah. And then the attacking areas, on the left wing, we've got Guro Wright and Sandy Baltimore. That is incredible depth. That's really good depth. The big debate this season is who starts the big games. I love Guro Wright.
That's the problem.
So I can't say otherwise, but I think Baltimore will challenge her very closely. And I think it will come down to a game-to-game preference rather than being an established number one. But I love Guro Wright.
As we mentioned before, this is it for Guro. She's had 2 seasons where the performances have been a bit subpar. I definitely think
last season was subpar. The season before was nothing close to subpar. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
Last season, I'll admit, Guro Wright was not the best. I think a lot of that was her ankle injury.
Until the Bristol City game was subpar. That Bristol City game was Guro at her very best. And if that Guro Wright turns up for every game next season, Baltimore won't play a minute because that Guro Wright is one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
However, Chelsea haven't seen that Guro Wright enough.
They've only seen consistency last season.
In small glimpses. If Guro can bring consistency, then Baltimore's going to find it tough. But as you say, 4 competitions, there'll be healthy rotation. They're both bloody good players. I think they'll both be all right.
Yeah, I think, again, having a full pre-season will be huge for Guro Wright. And as a huge fan of Guro, I think she'll come back firing this season. That's my prediction.
Maybe.
Attack midfield, now obviously Shoka Nusken can play there, but we expect it to be Lauren James. Yeah, Shoka Nusken plays every position. If we had 11 Shoka Nuskens, we'd win the Champions League. Comfortably.
That would be
She's not great in wide areas, to be fair, so we might struggle out there.
Really?
Yeah, she could do a job.
Yeah.
But, I think we might struggle there. But Lauren James, do we need to say anything? She is an incredible player. I think a lot of people debate who is the best OSL player. I don't think there is a debate. I get why. I get people right. No, there isn't. Lauren James is just different gravy. Different gravy. Do you disagree?
There's a lot of Khadija Shaw fans right now who are fuming.
Well, let them fume because Lauren James is incredible. Out on the right flank, then we've got Joanna Wright in Canaride, who I think is really sharp in pre-season. Yeah. I've always rated her really highly. I know the output hasn't always been there, but if pre-season's anything to go off, it's coming this season, and every left back in the division, bar Neve Charles, needs to watch out. We've got Beaver Jones as well. I don't really know where Beaver Jones is going to play this season, and I put Macario as a striker, Beaver Jones as a right winger. That could easily be the other way around. What we've seen in pre-season is Beaver Jones playing through the middle, so I'm not really sure what we're going to do, what's going to happen there. There's also Megan Hamano, who we saw play on the right wing. She can also play attack midfield as well, so I think we'll start to see her be integrated even more this season. Then up front, we've got Kerr and Fischel, both out with long-term injuries, but we hope to have them back about January time, which will be great, of course. We've got Maya Ramirez, who has been incredible since she's joined, really. She just bullies people around because she is just so much stronger than all the defenders. And, I mean, the United game for me really showed just how good she is. She just went round, elbowing people out of the way and smashing it in the back of the net.
If Maya Ramirez walked into a brick wall, it would hurt the brick wall more than it would hurt Maya Ramirez. Yeah. She's just unstoppable. When you know, if she's running at you, you run out of the way because you're just going to get bulldozed over. The physicality on Ramirez is phenomenal. As you say, I think she'll do brilliantly to cover while Fischel and Kerr are injured, and with the help of Kat Macario and the help of Aggie Beaver Jones, hopefully we'll see those two together because the Cat and the Beaver are pretty unstoppable. Yeah. But overall, it's a very dangerous front. Whoever you play up front is going to do well. It's going to score goals.
Yeah, wasn't she injured for the Champions League semi-final? The second
Ramirez,
leg.
yeah.
I think with her in the side, we saw how her hold-up play was so good in the first leg. I think if she was fit in the second leg, we may well have won that game. And so with Ramirez Kerr as a rotation option in the second half of the season, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
We're going into a WSL season where the rotation, you look at Chelsea and City, it's Ramirez and Kerr rotating and Shaw and Meadham are rotating. This is ridiculous high-level football. But Chelsea, brilliant options.
I'm going to put it out there, Russo Blackstone is really strong as well.
Yes, of course. That's ridiculous. I mean, incredible depth from all three of the top teams.
Yeah, and then we've got United, who,
don't have
to be fair, Turlum's brilliant, but Hasler hasn't really performed
depth
yet.
is non-existent.
We'll get to United in a couple of days, though. Chelsea, though, looking really strong. I didn't mention Kat Macario. She's brilliant. She can play strike. She can play right wing. She can play attack midfield. We don't really know where she's going to play yet. Brilliant player, though.
Macario's always a weird one.
She's injured at the moment, again, which is worrying.
But was always Chelsea signed her while she was injured. Didn't see her because she was injured. But it didn't take long for her to show how good she was. Yeah. Scored in her debut against Leicester. And it looks like she's a brilliant player.
Yeah, missed the Olympics through injury. It's a shame. Would have been nice to have her win the Olympics, come back with that Olympics medal form. But she'll be back at some point early part of the season. So hopefully back for the Arsenal game at the Emirates. That would be ideal. If not, we have an international break at the end of October. So hopefully after that, that'll be a good time to integrate her back in the side. So yeah, exciting stuff. First 5 fixtures, though. I alluded to the Arsenal game. We'll start in chronological order. Aston Villa coming up on the Friday night to start the season. It's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, that game will be at home. I think it's favourable for Chelsea. Aston Villa have got under new management. Yeah. It should be a win for Chelsea.
It's a really nice fixture. It's at home on a Friday night against a Villa side who are a complete unknown. It's a nice way to kick off the campaign. And that is followed by a lovely little trip just across London to Crystal Palace.
Yeah, Crystal Palace away. It's another game that should be really favourable, I think. Crystal Palace coming up from the Women's Championship. I think they'll be up for it. They'll give it a good fight. But ultimately, Chelsea are just so much stronger.
Yeah, for Palace, they will take that game with a pinch of salt, whatever the result is. Unless if it's a loss, if it's a win, they'll love it. But it's a bit of a free hit for them. No one expects them to come into the league and beat Chelsea. As long as they don't do what Bristol City did and lose 8-0, they should be all right.
Yeah, that'll be about damage limitation, really. If they can only lose that game 2-3-0, they'll be very pleased, I think.
It's a decent result.
Yeah, it's an okay result. It's not even a decent result, but they will take it over losing 5-6. Yeah. So, then Manchester United in game week 3 at home. I always like playing Man United at home. This is the kind of game I want to get tickets for, but we will see. Gonna be an interesting one. I think it'll be a tough game. Are we playing at Kings Meadow this one? It's not the Bridge, is it?
No, it's not.
Which is annoying.
I don't think it matters. I mean, United.
Well, we don't know what United are going to look like.
Yeah, because on the final day, they were horrific.
Yeah.
They've had a weird summer. They've still got time. By match week 4, United could look really strong. But if you had to ask me right now, I think it could be another 6-0.
No. Won't be a 6-0.
Why not? Like 6-1, Turnham score.
They're not that bad. I do have... I think Talon's a great signing, and I think that will help them. I think Clinton will be a big gain this season. I think Dominic Janssen helps them in defensive areas. But the big issue for me is that they still don't have a goalkeeper that I consider top quality, and they still don't have a manager that I consider top quality.
Or a defensive midfielder.
Or a defensive midfielder. But I think Nelson can cover that, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Letitia in some sort of libero role. So I think they're okay in that.
Everywhere.
Yeah, she just covers the whole pitch. I think tactically, though, they're let down a bit, and I think Chelsea should win that. Arsenal at the Emirates. There's another game I really want to go to.
That's a massive game.
It's going to be big, isn't it?
I sitting here right now, I can't call that game. I cannot call that game.
I can.
What would you say?
Up the shelves. We're going to win.
No, I can't.
But it's going to be really difficult. Again, I think a lot will be shown in match week 1 when Arsenal face Manchester City.
Yes.
I think that'll probably be a draw.
If Arsenal come into that Chelsea game after beating City and winning in match weeks 2 and 3, I think Arsenal could take that game.
Potentially. Depends. Very much depends how Chelsea got on against Man United. They might have had a chance to rest if it gets too bloody.
Maybe.
And then Tottenham at home to finish the first 5, and then it's internationals after that. It's always a favourable fixture. I know Tottenham have started to make up some ground in recent seasons, but this summer they've lost Chelin Bizet. I know they've signed Haley Raso. I don't think that's enough, though, to replace Clinton. They've lost Clinton and Bizet and replaced it with Haley Raso.
They have, but they've got Haley Raso and Wimberg, who we expect to step up into a big role.
True.
I think Haley Raso's phenomenal.
I don't think she's as good as Bizet.
Oh,
In the Dutch
no.
What?
Keep talking. Let's keep talking about Chelsea.
What?
No, we're not into Tottenham.
Bizet. Anyway, we'll talk about Tottenham
Chelsea.
in about a week. But yeah, Chelsea, they have a good start to the season. I'll be intrigued to see how they get on. Hopefully, 5 wins in the first 5.
Big year for Chelsea.
Yeah.
It's the first year in the last few that is a massive unknown game.
There's no Emma Hayes.
Yeah.
It's the first time in a decade. Emma Hayes isn't on the sideline. It's going to be very weird to watch Chelsea this season. But I'm very optimistic for the Bon Pasteur era. What is the minimum expectation for Bon Pasteur this season? Does she have to win the league?
A trophy. Has to be a trophy. If there's no silverware, she's got to go.
A big one with UWCL written on it.
Yeah. That's the idea.
I don't think if she wins nothing, she has to go.
No,
it depends on circumstances.
Look at the Chelsea side. Unless Zellen's playing basketball again, which she can't do because she's not even here anymore.
I agree.
That's why she's gone to the States. She can play basketball.
I agree, but it depends on circumstances. Some big injuries, stuff like that.
Yeah, but if they get to if the circumstances they've got to all 3 finals and lost, and they lost on the day by goal difference, then maybe there's an exception there.
Exactly. I think performances are more important than results. I know obviously football's a results business and we want to win every title, but provided we play well this season, I think Bon Pasteur will keep her job. I don't see a way that we play well and don't win everything. Not everything, but win something. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm very optimistic. And if we do lose our early WSL games to teams like Arsenal and Man City, it means we can focus on the Champions League. Like, what?
You can't. No, you still got to focus on the diet.
Yeah. Well, Barca don't. We'll just bid that off, play our youth squad, and we'll focus on the Champions League.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Will be. But yeah, that is everything for this preview. We're going to if you want to go and watch more of our previews, there'll be one on screen now. That's yesterday, where we spoke about Brighton. And of course, look out over the next week as we build up to the WSL season with a preview every single day. Should be very exciting. Yes. So yeah, look out for all of those if you're interested in the other WSL clubs. But that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.